This is the problem I have with all this stuff is I don't know if
SaaS is dead.
I don't know if something is dead. There's reinvention and there's obsolescence. So the question becomes is SaaS reinventing itself into something different, or is SaaS no longer needed because the thing that it filled is now gone? So, hi, my name is Andrei. I am the CEO and co-founder of Seldon Digital.
I'm David. I am product designer at Tabby.
And this is the Seldon Plan. And today's topic, David.
Design is dead.
Long live design. Woohoo!
Yes.
Let's get into this. I'm going to do my damnedest not to be overly cynical or critical of this particular topic, because my normal tendency is to be extremely cynical and extremely critical of this entire topic.
Can I then be very cynical today?
Oh, please. That would be great. If you can be cynical and then I can try to be the good cop, I would love that.
Perfect.
Okay, so we're going to start off this thing with a few different questions. Macho has given us a range of articles to read, most of which triggered me, and I had to promptly shut my brain down before I got myself into trouble. But let's start with a kind of overarching thing. And this is in regard to artificial intelligence and how AI is now changing everything. Everything is changing, as we've said before. But the thing that is happening in a lot of these articles, I'd say the thing that's happening in a lot of the doomsayer articles, the Doom and Gloom articles, is this notion of design dying, or is design even still a craft? And I'd love to get your take on that before I jump in.
Can you maybe give a little bit more context about what they mean with design is dead?
So we have this article here from Michael Buckley on Medium. And this one, it's titled, he's writing for UX Collective. It's entitled, "Design is Dead and We Have Killed It. Human-created AI not only has the capability to replace designers, but the potential to make design as we know it obsolete."
Yeah, bullshit.
I agree, but why?
Well, I think one of the things that he says is that design is. I was reading the article, but design is. We've reached the point where everything is the same. I think where we are is we're at the end of the previous iteration, the previous phase of design.
Right.
Where we've successfully manifested design as a production tool, and we've reached our limit now. And I agree, at this point, like the mediocrity that a lot of design shows that is out there can be automated, and that calls for the new phase.
Right. So to that point, I'm not going to promote myself too much here, but I did do a talk about what I think are the transitions that you saw. So to your point about the production phase, if we were looking at graphic design going through the commercial art phase into the stylistic Art Deco phase into the Bauhaus phase, basically the Bauhaus phase was about mechanisms and machines and reproduction at large scale. After which we get like neo-modernism and all those other kinds of things. Yes, I agree with you that in the product design area of software specifically, we're kind of ending in the Bauhaus area. We're going to be going into this like modernist or a reimagining what that is. And
just to be clear, I think like yes, design is dead if you treat design as like 90% of like SaaS landing pages out there. There you can completely create those without a designer present.
Right. So this gets into the point about what the next phase is.
Yeah.
So if you perceive that the Bauhaus production-oriented sort of things is all there is, which I don't believe is true personally, but if you believe that, then it's easy to see, I think, how you might be concerned or freaking out about what's happening now. To the point, just real quickly, in the article, he's talking about this part in the thing called the death of design. And he states, I quote, "In my view, engaging in a debate about the role of the designer and the integration of AI into our workflow seems irrelevant when we take a moment to reflect on the bigger picture. We should consider that the traditional notion of design may eventually become obsolete." And that's where it's like, okay, that's jumping the shark. We should consider that the traditional notion of design may eventually become obsolete. So again,
what do you think he means with traditional notion of design?
That's the first question. Like, what's traditional? How far back are we going?
Yeah.
If we're going to go back just in general, like throughout all of human history, design is an activity that humans engage in to shape and, create things around them that are not of nature to a certain degree. Design is like, we make things for ourselves, we make things for each other. We engage in activities that make and create things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you believe that notion of design is going to become obsolete. I think you actually are stating that humans are going to become obsolete to a certain degree. That just doesn't make any sense to me personally.
Agree.
So that's the first part I would point out there. And then he does a logical piece that's I find frustrating. So here it is. The one of the things he says is, throughout my career, I've dedicated a great deal of time and energy acquiring skills expected to be the next big thing. From learning Flash and Figma to mastering coding and incorporating UX and digital marketing to my design process. At the end of the day, it's disheartening to see many of these skills becoming obsolete year after year. And learning how to use or incorporate AI into our workflow is no exception to this rule. Welcome to all of design history and human activity. It's like that, the people who were doing lead type became obsolete when PageMaker came out in like 1986.
Medium should revoke his membership.
It's not. It's tunnel vision beyond belief. And designers, for everybody out there listening, like that obsolescence is the opportunity to do the next thing. And I get that maybe that it would be a bummer that your skills are lost, but at the core of every skill that you learn is something that you can use for the next thing that's coming. If it's not, that skill you learned was not a skill.
Yeah.
It was a tool.
Yeah.
And if your entire career is mapped to the tools you use, you're in for a world of hurt over your entire career in this business.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the one thing I would say about that is like, yes, AI is changing everything. Yes, AI is going to make certain things obsolete at a production level. Yes, AI will even mimic some basic fundamentals that are easy to do. But like in the video game thing we just talked about at the beginning of this, when we were kind of just having an informal discussion, once you have the ability to render in real time the sun in a 3D world where you don't have to like draw or map the shadows anymore, that opens you up into a whole nother level of things you can design. That the experience of the world itself, you can focus on that. When you are lamenting certain things about what's happening now, like that, your skills in Figma are going away. That's the same thing. Like that was never really a skill to begin with. That was a means to an end for now. What you were trying to do is figure out, how do I get this feel in Figma, even though Figma can't do it. Yeah. So if Figma adds liquid glass, I guess, but that's kind of against what the point is. The point is that you need to be using the newer tools and the 3D things that are actually what are going to do it, because it's going to be a facsimile in Figma otherwise.
And tools are just tools are an answer to the technology that is changing.
Yes.
So Figma is an answer to the technology that's changed, where it was possible to use GL, like you mentioned this once, like use GL to render interfaces, blah, blah, blah.
Right, because more importantly, GL was being adopted by the browsers.
Exactly.
So all the computer companies were putting GL into their computers for a variety of reasons.
Yeah. So it's the same as saying like, the convection oven has been invented, cooking is dead. Because now we can put stuff at a constant temperature for 2 hours. So cooking is that. I mean, very simplified, but it's the same kind of analogy.
Yeah, you cannot tie skills.
Hey Bentley.
You cannot tie skills in craft to tools. That's just pointless. And the fact that he mentions from learning Flash and Figma to mastering coding. Well, if you've actually learned the deepness of Flash and Figma and you've mastered coding, the tools that go forward are going to make those things even easier for you to use and implement so that you can actually master newer skills.
Yeah.
Okay, so this kind of leads into the next question. So let's just take the premise that AI and the tools that use AI will do the execution of certain functions reasonably well, to the point that people who've done those jobs aren't going to be able to have those jobs anymore. If the tools can do the execution, so let's even like take a simple example. Let's say the tool can execute building a checkout flow, like a shopping cart flow. Like the AI tools can just do that. And I'm bringing that example up specifically for a reason, because checkout flows are places where you don't need to innovate a ton when it comes to the UI. What you need to innovate is the data, the algorithms, and everything kind of in the background to make it less friction, less friction, more frictionless, as well. So let's say that the AI can just do all your checkout flows and even your sign-up forms.
Yeah.
The question then is, like, what's left to design?
Two things. I saw, I think, something on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Someone mentioned if you ask any LLM, give me a random number, chances are, and he did it, and he screenshotted the examples, chances are that all the outputs of all the LLMs are 17. Why? Because that's apparently the number that people give when you ask them what's a random number between 1 and 25.
Right.
So it's not a random number. It's trying to pattern match.
Yeah, it's the most used example.
Exactly. So yes, if you want the most generic shopping cart example, great. That is the then the tools can do the execution. You could also argue that when digital design tools come into place, like, oh, now a digital design tool can draw a straight line. Like, is my skill with the pencil not needed anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. So to your first point, by the way, this is actually a good point about obsolescence and evolution and kind of innovating into the new market. So what I mean by that is, if you're somebody who's investing in a company, or even you're the product owner, or you're building a company, you don't necessarily want the floor to be variable.
Yeah.
You want the floor to be something that you know, so that you can always plan how to go above it.
Yeah.
So if you tell somebody who's a business owner or a product owner, like, look, the floor is this plain vanilla, not a very well designed thing, not a very intricate designed shopping cart. Execution wise, it converts, it works. It's 98% throughput, all kinds of vectors and metrics that work. And then you ask them, do you want to choose this, or do you want to have your designer try something else? They will take the first one over anything all the time. It's imperative upon the designer to take that floor and raise it. But if the floor got moved, you can't argue with the floor, because the floor is where the paycheck is coming from. So when we look at this kind of thing, we have to remember that the floor has been moved up, and the baseline is now there, and your job is not to complain that the floor is moved or say that you can go higher than the floor. Your point is to prove that you can go higher than the floor.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for you to say, okay, great, we have a baseline. Now I actually work for something above it, because I can take a risk that even if it doesn't work, we have this floor to go back to.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of designers and engineers and product owners and stuff are missing the mark when they have these conversations.
Yeah.
It's like the AI is going to allow you to move the floor up. Embrace that and move on.
Exactly.
That's my take on that.
And I think also, when I would argue that a lot of these people that are like the doomsayers that are saying design is dead because I've just typed a single prompt into an LLM and it created a landing page, I haven't really spent enough time trying, like, using an LLM to create something. It's a lot of work to get it gets to the point where it's actually valuable. It's like, out of the box, it's like, oh, this looks great, and then you're going to go into the details like, okay, yeah, needs some refinement. So,
yep,
design. I mean, maybe in 5 years we've mastered the LLMs create like a great baseline, but I think we're not even there.
I think it'll be LLM augmented.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's 2 to 3 years rather than 5. 5 is quite a long time. I think it'll be within 2 to 3.
Yeah. Personally,
that's my prediction. So to that point, then, by the way, you made this point earlier. Then, if everything's the same, like everything's like this baseline, executes well, what do you do? Like, if everything's the same, how do you fix that? And I think the point I want to bring up, because this other article we've got about this, like, design is dead, long live design. This one's coming from Enki Studio. We'll have links to all these in the description, obviously. This one is complaining about the thing that we've all seen before. Everything's the same. Like, nothing is unique. Everything's got this bland, soft beige color or rounded corners or whatever. And then the funny thing about this article is that it actually answers its own question, in my opinion. Or at least if it doesn't answer its own question, it doesn't understand history or the context that the answer is in. So this section says, once upon a time, design was dangerous. Design wasn't always about harmony. It was about disruption, dialogue, declaration. Think Saul Bass. Think Bauhaus. Think David Carson tearing apart the grid in the 90s. Designers provoked, they challenged, they said what words couldn't. Now, if you know anything about design history, you'll know that those people, Saul Bass, David Carson, there weren't a lot of them. They were unique and thought-provoking specifically because everything had become the same, and then they pushed open the next boundary. Like you've got like Peter Saville in Manchester, who did all the stuff for Factory Records and Joy Division and all the music. There's all these examples you can pull, but precisely the point is that when things become the same, that's precisely the moment that there will be disruption.
Yeah,
and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So to complain about things being the same, or having the floor raised and all the shopping carts are the same, is like lacking a sense of how things evolve and move throughout a career.
I feel this is a classic case of there's probably like the psychological bias for a name for this. The classic case of like being in the midst of something and then overemphasizing the importance of it. It's like, oh, we're in this age where everything looks the same.
Yeah.
And you know, like fast forwarding 20 years or even looking back 20 years, the things that stand out and we still remember are the outliers.
Exactly.
And those are few.
Well, also the outliers that pushed the trends in new directions.
Yeah.
And to that point, if you have everything being pushed in points in new directions, then you don't have any outliers, and then what you have is chaos.
Exactly.
So you either have chaos or you have sameness. But to complain about the sameness, that everything is not chaos or that everything is not different, belies the point.
Because I'm not a historian, but I can remember that, you know, like in the Art Nouveau era, at some point there also was a moment where everything was the same.
Yeah, but crazy same.
Yeah,
everything was crazy.
Everything was crazy same. Yeah. And then they moved on, and then the things looking back that we remember are the outliers.
Yeah. Well, to that point, that's when the Bauhaus became a thing, because in the Art Nouveau, everything was curvy and flowery and lots of color and pastels, and all of it was just like this. If you looked at it, it looked like a Moulin Rouge kind of thing. It was like, it's crazy. Like there's so much going on, and then Bauhaus is like, nope. Coming in, we're going to change the direction.
So I think the bigger question, I think for a lot of people is, given the status quo, what's the future going to look like? Like what is how do you unlock your inner creativity to be a part of the next wave? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I don't. So the next wave is going to be like the past waves. You either play it safe, which is fine. Playing it safe is not bad. Playing it safe just means that you kind of roll with the tide and roll with the punches and evolve slowly over the things that change and just start to learn them. Or you go for it and you aim for the fences and swing. And if you don't hit it, that doesn't mean you're bad or not good at your job. It just means that, just didn't happen this time. So with anything in a career, you have to look at opportunity and say, is this the right time for me to go for it or not? And that's a personal choice. What's not good is complaining that all the tools are changing, or complaining that UX is dead, which is not, or complaining that all kinds of things are going away. That's always been the case. Like, welcome to being, an adult.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's just the way that it is. And it's always been like that. This is not anything new to a large degree. So what's the original question again? I want to make sure I answer it this time. I felt like
I think
skirting around it.
The bigger, I always look at like what's the rationale behind all these
like why are people
the
saying
doomsayer things, like, oh, design is dead. It's like, I feel that people are maybe a little bit scared that they don't know what the new original is going to be.
Right.
And so they're looking for ways to prepare themselves for something that is uncertain. Because I think a lot of people are driven by the anxiety of like, am I becoming obsolete because I don't know what the future is going to bring, and I need to prepare myself for a future that I don't know what it's going to bring. Yeah,
so that's the advice I have there is the same I have for anything. Well, not for anything. The advice I have there is probably similar to what I mentioned earlier, which is like if you were a graphic designer and you wanted to control the layout because the page is fixed in width, like paper can't be resized, but then you go to the web and suddenly you can resize the window, and that changes everything. There's an amount of being a control freak or being in control as a designer that people, that's the part that I think they fall in love with themselves. That's the part that they really want to hold on to, because that being in control is something that is very addictive as a designer. I want to be in control all the time too. I think you have to learn when you have to give in to the fact that this is the context, or this is the technology, or this is the trend, or where things are going, where you have to you have to ride the flow. It's like if you're rowing down a whitewater stream, like you have to go with the water. You can't say like I'm going to go over there no matter what.
Yeah.
Good luck doing that.
Yeah.
A good person navigating a river that's like out of control is trying to find a way to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And once you're out of that, you're fine. So you just gotta relinquish some of that control to some degree, not all of it, not become like subservient, but there are aspects of what's happening now that you need to let go of, and ride with it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're going to be quickly unhappy or out of a job.
Yeah. There's a great analogy about human creativity and like how the brain works. Is that as we grow older and as we keep on doing the same things over and over again, we kind of like create shortcuts in our brain, like a hard-coded shortcut. So if you think about the brain as like an unlimited amount of pathways of connections between neurons, and if you compare them to like a ski slope, like everyone's doing the same pathway down. So like the fresh snow gets squeezed into a very easy, accessible pathway down. And that's your brain. And at some point it becomes very hard to go off track, because that's where the ski is still fresh, and it's actually giving you resistance. And I think that's the same analogy that counts here, is that you want to be able to, or you want to push yourself to say, I've always done things in the same way. How do I do things differently?
Well, to your point about skiing, when you go off track, you have to actually pay attention to what's going on.
Exactly.
You like, oh, okay, I can feel the skis. Like, I got to make sure I try to turn. There's a tree. Like, like there's all these things that suddenly
uncomfortable.
Engage your brain, and you have to actually be present in the moment.
Yeah.
And so, if you're the other advice to this is, I agree with you. If you're going to do this, you also need to be actively engaged in it. So don't do it until you have space around you, or in your head, or at night, or on the weekends, or something where you can actually breathe, because you're going to need to activate your brain. To break some of these patterns and get into that flow, into the new flow.
And it's like, just expand your, like one of the things that I found interesting about, like I was reading up on the liquid glass that Apple released, is that they had a lab inside of Apple filled with different layers of glass, like different thicks, like different types of glass, everything to get themselves out of their old mindset into like a new mindset. Like, how does this glass work? What happens when I put like a red piece of paper underneath? What happens when I put this light on it? And that's the same. It's like, it's just the same old story. Is like, like if you're stuck in your design process, you just go out for a walk.
Yeah, exactly.
You just go do other things, and then like try to bring those things, not even consciously, but unconsciously bring those things back into your design. Like,
exactly.
Question the status quo.
So I want to sort of wrap this up a little bit with two more questions real quickly. So the question here is, in a world of infinite choices, is design less about making and more about knowing what not to make? I'm curious what your opinion is of that.
In a world of infinite choices, is design less about making and more about knowing what not to make? I think we are... I think design was always about creating infinite possibilities and then creating it into the best thing that you can design, right? So it's like, and I think now all these ideas, whether they're raw or unrefined or whatever, they are being put out there,
right? Because
that's the output of a lot of like interactions with an LLM,
right?
So I feel that the curation becomes a more important piece of design, because it's becoming more the ideation comes more to the surface. But like it's the same like when you go into a brainstorm with like 6 people and you'll write on sticky notes creative ideas, those also need to be curated. The difference is that those sticky notes now are actually full-fledged prototypes, because AI can help you with it.
Right. So there's a word you're using that I hear a lot of that I want to add another word to it, which is editing. So there's curation and there's editing.
Yeah.
So curation tends to be taking whole pieces or taking a collection and shaping the collection in such a way that there's a story. So like if you think of a museum curator, they would find the right pieces that tell the story of Egyptian history between 200 BC or 200, whatever that terminology is these days, I forget, up until 400, whatever. So that's that kind of curation. And then there's editing. The curation part, I think, is going to be needed and useful, but I think a lot of people should embrace the editing part too. And the editing part is you need to be able to take a set of material and know what to remove. So it's not so much know what not to do, it's what to actively remove or to order in such a way that you've got what you need.
Yeah.
And the editing part is super important because what AI is doing is it's going to offer you more possibilities. So it's going to offer you more context and more things to work with. So curating it might be a thing with that, but I think editing is going to come first, and then the curation is going to come after it. So what AI does is gives you more to choose from, and it's going to be even more important to know what to edit out of it.
Yeah.
And so right now we have few choices. Like a designer will make 2 or 3 options. Maybe the product managers will ask for 6 or whatever that is, but there's very few options you choose from. Now you're going to have 100.
Yeah.
It's going to become even more important how to remove the stuff that actually is not what you want and what you need, and then edit it, and then get to that curation after the fact. So that's one of the things that I would add to the conversation is editing is going to be a thing. Yeah. As a designer.
There's an updated graphic of the famous skateboard. Jobs to be the MVP graphic.
Oh yeah, I saw that. The AI is this fancy space car or whatever.
And then you remove stuff, and it actually turns into a car.
Oh yeah. Exactly. That's true. I saw that meme coming up in my LinkedIn this past couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Something like that. Yeah. It's AI gives you all this stuff. You're no, wait, get rid of the fins. Not 1950s. Yeah. So to that point, then another question we have here is taste becoming the rarest skill in design?
I wouldn't say rarest, but I do feel it's becoming more important because in a world where the new original has to be thought of, if with anything new, who's going to it's very easy in a world where we have an established style, right? Which we had in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So it's easy to say, okay, it's good because it resembles that style already.
Right.
So I think now we're moving into something new. So who's going to say that it's good or not? The people with taste.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the point, I think the question begs the question, right? People with taste have taste.
Yeah.
And if you don't have taste, then you learn taste, whatever that means. And it's usually within a specific culture or a specific genre, within a specific style, etc. What I think is going to happen is that all the up-leveling that's going to occur, the floor is going up, the notion of taste is going to go up because people's choices are inherently going to be better. Either better because they're more functional, better because they're simple and clean, better for a lot of reasons. And I think that part scares people. But really, if you have taste, you're fine, because that's a thing that is on top of all of this, which is good. Yeah. So there's no need to worry about it becoming a rare skill. If you have, there's a famous Steve Jobs quote where he talks about Microsoft. It's they have no taste. Jobs would never be afraid in this world because his level of taste is always going to be there regardless. Yeah. Same with Johnny Ive. These people already had a level of taste or refined their skill with their editing process and curation process, or refined all kinds of things that got them that level. That's not going to go away. The AI is not going to get rid of that.
If you don't have taste, what then?
That's what we have today.
No, but
that's no different than today. Is my point.
It is the same, but if you don't have taste.
Oh, how to get it?
What were your advice be for people that don't feel that they have taste?
So you have to develop a taste. So you're a foodie. You cook lots of stuff. How did you develop taste? You had to try lots of things, make lots of things. So you should have an opinion. Having taste also means you have to have an opinion. It doesn't mean that your opinion is the truth or that your opinion is correct. It just means that you have an opinion that is solid and you can back up with. So for example, if you like film noir, you should have an opinion about film noir. Yeah. Now, can you say film noir is the best type of movie making ever? You can, but you're going to sound like an idiot. You know, that's your opinion. But if you develop a lot of taste around watching these things and detail and analyzing, then that's how you develop the taste of what's good in film noir.
Yeah.
Like Quentin Tarantino is in love with movies. Like you can see when he makes movies, he's in love with bad movies. He loves all like the schlocky 70s, like, you know, blaxploitation and like kung fu, and those movies aren't great, but they're of a genre. Yeah. And out of that he developed a taste that he then morphed into something new. And you can see it, like spaghetti westerns.
Yeah,
I think spaghetti westerns are hysterically bad. Like, I don't know why people love them, but you know, that's fine.
Yeah.
But having a taste means developing something, and you have to like try it out a lot, and then you have to develop an opinion about it.
Yeah, but I think also the scary thing for a lot of people is that they feel that they haven't developed the taste because they grew up in an age where you could ask everything to Google, to TikTok, whatever, and it's like your taste is always an exterior.
So you've worked with me.
Yes.
I was not your manager per se, but pretty close. You've seen when I've done this with people. There's a piece of advice I always give. I've given for 20, 30 years. Whenever I've managed large teams, whether it be at like, you know, Twitter or Booking or Adobe or whatever, is I always say I don't need designers with an opinion. I need designers with a vision. I do not subscribe to the user is everything. The user is the center of the universe. I don't subscribe to that because designers need to have a vision. They need to have more than an opinion. It needs to be a vision. Vision is about taste. And you do not develop that if you're told all the time that your opinion doesn't matter. It's whatever the users want, or it's what everything's about the user. User this, user centered that. That's the whole reason why I've fought the UX community for a long time about these notions, is because they've removed the human making these things. Now these people are complaining that, oh, there's no more humans making these things. What are we doing? And we're all out of a job. It's like, no, you're the one who removed these people from learning taste.
Yeah.
You're the one who told them that their opinion didn't matter. It's all about the user. Everything's user centered. So, you know.
Yeah, but it's scary. It's scary for people because I think what you're saying means that you have to express what you're thinking.
Yeah, you have to develop a taste.
You have to express what you're thinking. You have to put it out there. You have to be ready for criticism.
Yeah,
because that's what you get when because taste is subjective.
It is scary, but your managers should be providing safe ways for you to do that.
Exactly.
That's what I do. That's what my design critiques are about. Yeah. Everybody always asks me, like, why do I not let product managers into design critiques?
Yeah.
Because I don't want the product manager screwing up me helping people develop these skills.
Yeah.
I need the designers criticizing each other first before they can take critique from somebody else outside the room. This is all circling back on that stuff. But yeah, AI is not going to destroy any of these things. It should have been going the whole time. And my advice to anybody out there is it's never too late. There's this whole notion of being too late or you can't change is bunk, obviously. Now's as good a time as any to get into it. Develop a taste. It's going to matter. Don't be afraid that design is changing. It's always changed. You know, things are happening, but this doom saying like design is dead and we killed it is just like, give me an effing break. No, that's not the lead. That is not even close to what's happening.
Your cynicism was almost gone for the
reared its ugly head at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
But my cynicism is in service of a goal here. You know, I became a designer because I enjoy making, I enjoy engaging my brain. I enjoy being creative. And I also enjoy being able to do it until I die. Being a designer, you can do up until the very last day on this planet. If you're 94, you can still be a designer. Like some of the best typographers, you know, Wim Krauvel, how old was he before he passed away here in the Netherlands? I think he was like 93 or 94.
Yeah, in his 90s.
Yeah, he was making amazing typography all the way through. I took this job and wanted to be this job because I enjoyed the engagement of my brain. And this is just another opportunity to engage your brain and move forward, in my opinion.
I agree.
Cool. All right. So, as always, we'll have notes in the information slots below, or whatever. Be sure to follow us here at the Seldon Plan. We've got lots of things happening. Lots of things are going crazy right now, and we would love to hear your comments about what you're seeing and what you're hearing, and go from there.
Cool.
Any last thoughts then, David?
I was thinking, if you don't have to, if you feel that you don't have these skills, like what are some very practical ways for you to get out of the rut and embrace the fact that everything is changing?
Probably one of two things I can think of really easily. One is go find a group of friends where you guys can play. Like you're not doing things because you have to or because of business goal or whatever. Like you're just literally playing around. Make an app or make something or make a community or build. Like just go have fun. Like people who play basketball, go find something that's equivalent to that from a design point of view. The second thing then is to embrace a hobby. Embrace a creative hobby. Get out of your head, to your point. Get out of your head.
Yeah.
I play guitar whenever I get stuck. Like I play my bass or I do something else. But like you got to find a hobby that lets you be creative, because being creative, by the way, means you're engaging your brain. And sometimes your brain just needs, to your point, it gets these ruts and paths that it has to do. Sometimes you need to do something else that's creative, whether it be gardening or painting or playing an instrument or something creative. Like anything that kind of engages your brain creatively will be super useful to calm you down and help you see the path forward. Don't ever push against a wall though. Sometimes you just have to go around it.
Exactly. Perfect.
All right, man. Well, with that, we will see y'all next time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks again. Cheers.